Shalom Akayam, Shalom. First, I'm going to give your praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. And double honors to the elders of GMS, Elder Gabbar, Elder Rakah, Elder Ramlab, Elder Tahar. They lead them well in righteous and truth and spirit and sincerity. And double honors to all the camps on the highways and byways that are bringing out the word in the name of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, in truth and spirit and sincerity. Okay? Today we're going to talk about the chariots of the Lord. We're going to give you some edification about the chariots of the Lord. We're going to pull out some deep scriptures to do with the chariots of the Lord. And we're going to give you a testimony. We're going to get to listen to this testimony. Now, this man here you see on the screen in the middle with the glasses, his name is David Fravor. He's a commander. He's a commander in the United Air Force of the fighter pilot. He's a fighter pilot commander in the United Air Force. Okay, his name is David Fravor. He's a commander. He's at the top. He's one of the best fighter pilots in the US Air Force. He's been in the US Air Force, I think I said, for 25 years. Now he's going to give a testimony. As you know, recently a lot of these fighter pilots have been giving testimonies about encounters with what we call UFOs, right? Which we know are the chariots of the Lord. Okay, recently there's been a lot of testimony. Now this commander here is going to give a testimony of his encounter with one of the Lord's Chariots, which the world calls UFOs, unidentified flying objects, but we know that they are the chariots of the Lord. He's going to give a testimony about his encounter with a chariot 15 years ago, right? And I'm going to let you listen to it. I'm going to stop it in bits and parts as through. I thought I'd start around here around the 12 minute. Didn't need to start at the beginning because at the beginning he was kind of giving an introduction of who he is and what he does and so forth and this and that. So I'm going to start the story of him when he first encounters the chariot on a routine training exercise with other pilots in their fighter jets. So it's not just him alone. I think there's two or three, there's four, either four people or four fighter jets out there on a doing a test pilots. They're doing test exercise training exercise is the word I'm looking for. All right, so I want you to listen carefully to what he's going to say, and then I'm going to pull out some scriptures and show you, and I'm going to show you some images, and I'm going to show you how specific it is what David Fravor, spelled F-R-A-V-O-R, right, what he saw, what this commander, Navy Air Force fighter pilot saw. All right, so without further ado, let's get straight into this. Oops.
And you, because all we are to him is blips, right? So we keep moving. We have numbers by us because we're reporting back. So we get out there, he calls merge plot. So we're in the airplane, my wingman's off to the left-hand side, and when they call merge plot, we say it's doing the Stevie Wonder, so you start doing this.
Looking around, yeah.
Because now it's somewhere around you, and they're not helping find it because you're in the same, you're in the
So
same.
at this moment, they've spotted the object, the chariot, but they're trying to see basically where it is, what it is they actually saw. All right.
So as we look off the right-hand side, and this is I gotta caveat. This is a clear, no clouds, perfect Southern California day. Light wind, no white caps. Blue water, blue sky.
Yeah.
If you have a sailboat, really nice.
Right.
We did not. I was on a big gray boat. So we look down, we're looking around, and as I look off the right side, we see something that's causing the waves to break. So, got any sailors in here? So if you've ever been out at sea and you've seen a seamount that's submerged like 6 feet under the water, if anyone's been out to the coast and watched it, where you see the waves will break and you'll be like, why is that white water out there? There's a rock under there, the waves are coming up and breaking. So there's a lot of seamounts out off the coast of San Diego. So we start thinking, it's probably a seamount. And as we're looking down, now picture the disturbance, the white water is kind of about the size of a 737 airplane. So think of a kind of a cross, like if you took a 737, pointed it to the east, and dropped it in. So if we're a clock, it's in the middle, pointing towards 3 o'clock. So as we look down, I'm kind of like looking at the white water going, what's that? And it draws our eyes onto the TIC TAC. So the guy in the back seat of the other airplane, because F-18Fs, these are Super Hornets, brand new too, right out of the factory, the guy, so we have a backseater. So the guy in the backseat of the other jet says, "Hey, skipper," because that's what they called me. I go, "Hey, skipper, do you?" And I kind of finish the sentence. "Dude, do you see that?" And we're watching this little white object, and it's oriented north-south, and it's going like this. And it doesn't, like a helicopter would do this. So the first thing we see it, what do you think? Helicopter, right? There's a white thing down there. So what do? When you see a helicopter, because I've seen them a gazillion times, there's rotor wash that comes off of them, right? And you'll start seeing the water. It kind of beats the water down below it, and you'll see there's no mist. It's just doing this. And it's kind of going up and down like the southern little thing that came off the object, and it goes up, it goes left, goes right. But normally when a helicopter does that, it kind of goes like this, and then when it's trying to go the other way, it'll kind of slide a little bit because of inertia, and then it'll go back to it. It doesn't do that. It goes real abrupt. So as we're kind of driving around the circle, we get over to about the 9 o'clock position. We're still at 20,000 feet. They're sitting over here. I said, "I'm going to go check it out." The other airplane said, "I'm going to stay up here." I said, "Yeah, you stay up here. You take high cover. Just watch us." So now they can watch both me and the thing. I'm going to go down and see how close I get this thing. So we keep going around. I start a nice, easy descent. Not necessarily cautious because of the object, but you can really lose how high you are over the water because it looks the same at 100 feet as it does at 10,000 feet. So you can, and I wouldn't be the first one to try and fly through it. Doesn't work. So I get to about the 12 o'clock position. The little object's still doing this, right? It's about 50 feet off the water. So this is important to note. The ship at the time, the radar, can't see it. Couldn't possibly see it because of the radar horizon. Because contrary to some people in California, the Earth is round. It is not surrounded by an ice wall. It's round, right? So when you get so far away, you can't see around it, all right? So we're far enough away. We're probably 60, 70 miles away from the cruiser. It's down here. We're up here. So we're descending, and we get to about the 12 o'clock. It goes boop, just like this and starts coming up.
Reacting to you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I'm like, woo, all right. So we keep coming down, and it keeps coming up. And we go all the way around the circle until I get over to about the 8 o'clock position. By now, I'm probably around, estimate, this is a recall from almost 15 years ago, I'm probably about 15,000 feet. And the object is somewhere around probably 12,000 feet. So I'm getting closer. And it's about a mile across. So we're in a circle. We're just driving around. Everyone did that as kids, keep running around the circle. And you'll do it all day long until they tire themselves out. There's always that kid that cheats. So what do? Cut across the circle. So I go like this. I drop my nose. It's called an aggressive nose-low maneuver, and I go across. So I'm going, instead of around, I'm going around this way. And I'm thinking, so it's here, and I'm going to try and get over and get it. So I start pulling across the circle. It's coming up, gets in front of my nose. You see it start to accelerate, and it goes poof, and it's gone.
Right, I'm going to stop it there. Right, we're going to continue listening to his statement, but I'm going to pull out as a couple of scriptures first, right? We're going to start here. Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 13. Alright? "And as for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like the burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. It went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning, and the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning." Right? So this is what he just said, that the chariot, because if we go up here, you'll see this is what Ezekiel's speaking of. He says, "And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof was a colour of amber in the midst of fire." All right? And he's spoken about, "And out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. And this was the appearance that they had the likeness of a man." These were the chariots that Ezekiel saw, right, on the river Cheba, right, in the land of the Chaldeans, right, on the river Cheba. He saw that, right? And then down here, when Ezekiel was talking about when he saw the movement of the chariots, right, he made this statement here. He said, verse 14, he said, "And the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning." Right? So let's just get that first. And then he goes on to describe the chariot that he saw. He says, "Now as I beheld the living creatures," he says, "Now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creature with 4 faces. The appearance of the wheels was like the works that was like unto the colour of beryl, and the four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as if it was a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Right? When they went upon their four sides. They turned not when they went. So whether they went left, right, up, down, back, front, they didn't turn. They just moved in whatever direction the chariot wanted to move. This is what he's saying here. He said, when they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. As for the rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. So this chariot had lights, had all its lights on underneath it, all right? Those are the eyes that he saw in the rings, right, of the chariot, right? So he's seen a chariot. The chariot that Ezekiel saw is a round chariot, right? That's why it said it was like a wheel inside a wheel. A wheel is round, right? And he says, and as for the rings, they were so high that they were dreadful. They were so, right? And their rings were full of eyes round about them four. And when the living creature went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creature were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up with them. Wheresoever the spirit was to go, they went. Thither was the spirit to go. And the wheels were lifted up over them, over against them. For the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. All right? So he says, when those went, these went. And when those stood, these stood. And when those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up over against them. Right? For the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. All right? So this is what he saw. All right? He said, no matter where it moved, it said if it went to the left, it said when, verse 17, when they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. So they didn't have to turn left, right, like how you turn a car left, to go left or to turn right, or to reverse forward or to go forward or backwards. All right? And then his first statement here, when he says, and the living creature ran. So when it moved in the air and returned, it was like the appearance of a flash of lightning. It was like it moved so fast, poof, like a flash of lightning. Right? This is Ezekiel testifying this on the river Cheba. This is during the times of Jeremiah, the times of Nebuchadnezzar. This is during the times Ezekiel was one of the prophets that also spoke about the Israelites going into captivity under Nebuchadnezzar. All right, this is during that time. This is around, I'm trying to give it, so it's around 590 BC. So around 600 BC, all right? Just to round it off, right? This is happening around 600 BC. So we're talking 2,600 years ago, right? This is what he's seeing. Now let's go back to this highly decorated US Navy fighter pilot who's a commander, right? This is what he saw 15 years. He gave this interview on the 1st of June. A week ago, 1 week ago, he gave this interview, 2019, all right? This happened in 2004, all right? Just like it says here, engaged in a UFO with a fighter jet, all right? And they call it the TIC TAC UFO event series, all right? So we're going to quickly go back to hear what he said.
So I'm getting closer, and it's about a mile across. So we're in a circle. We're just driving around. Everyone did that as kids, keep running around the circle, and you'll do it all day long until they tire themselves out. There's always that kid that cheats. So what do? Cut across the circle. So I go like this. I drop my nose. It's called an aggressive nose-low maneuver, and I go across. So I'm going, instead of around, I'm going around this way. And I'm thinking, so it's here, and I'm going to try and get over and get it. So I start pulling across the circle. It's coming up. Gets in front of my nose, you see it start to accelerate, and it goes poof, and it's gone.
Yeah, that?
So then
poof, it's gone. Ezekiel said, just reiterate this, Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 14. And the living creature ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. Exactly how Commander David Fravor is describing. Let's continue.
Oh, all right. I was kind of weirded out. I actually told my backseater, I go, woo. I asked the plane up above us, I said, hey, do you see it? And they said, no, it just disappeared. I'm like, okay. A little bit weirded out. So we turn around. So I said, well, let's turn around. Let's go see what was causing the water to turn white. So we turn around. So we're right there. It's not. It's gone. There's no white water, no Tic Tac, no nothing. So we turn back around, and the whole time we're talking to the cruiser, and I'll fill in some of the details here in a sec. So we turn around, and I'm like, well, because I'm the boss, okay, we got to go get some training, right? So let's go. So we start flying back to our cap point, which is about 60 miles away, and the controller comes up and says, sir, you're not going to believe this. I said, what? He said, that thing. It's at your cap point, just hanging out, 20,000 feet. So I'm like, okay. So we get up, we drive, we never see it. We never see it on radar. Never saw it on radar ever. Only saw it visually. We do a couple intercepts. We come back to the
that? Never saw it on the radar. Only saw it visually. Only saw it. The radar could not pick up the Lord's Chariot. Only saw it visually. And when it reappeared, it was at his cap point, right? Which is the rear of his aircraft. And he did not even know, right? So let's continue.
Strangest day of my entire life, right? So we come back and land, and we have a thing called it's the apparel office where we store our flight gear. So we come inside, we're taking off the gear, and the four of us are talking about this. Like, oh my God, what was that? Well, another of my crews is getting ready to launch. And they're listening to us, and the backseater decided, hey, I'm gonna go try and find this thing. He knew where our cap points were at because we use them over and over for the training. And so he takes off. We have no idea, we're doing our debrief, trying to figure out what we just saw. He goes and flies. Hour and a half later, he comes back, and he had walked into intel because we have to go into intelligence and debrief. And the backseaters go do that, and they're like, hey, we saw this thing. We don't know what it was. They're like, great. And they're making fun of us, of course. And so when he walks in, they go, oh, VFA 41, see any UFOs? And the backseater goes, as a matter of fact, I did. And he drops the tape, which is the minute 30-second video that you guys see. So kind of cool that we had the video, and then he brought it down to the ready room, and there's actually two tapes. There's a radar tape and then the targeting flare tape. The radar tape you guys have never seen, and no one probably will ever see it because we don't know where it's all at. And then the stuff that was taken off of a classified drive and put on YouTube and some other things. So, and that is a story. So besides catching a lot of stuff, and I'll let these guys, because I know they got some leading questions, but that's kind of what we saw. So it wasn't a fleeting thing. It wasn't a weather balloon. It was an object. I got a lot of experience. I looked at it for over 5 minutes, and I chased it. I got within a half mile of it. And it had no wings. It had no rotors. You can look in the video. It had no known propulsion system. There's no plume coming out. There's no heat signature, no nothing. And so we had talked to the cruiser while we're doing all this, and the young controller, and it's not the one that's public and talking all the time now, but it's probably a kid who was a second-class petty officer. It's a supervisor that keeps talking. He said, I said, well, what is this? He said, well, sir, we've been tracking these things, up to 10 of them, not 100, up to 10 of them, for the last 2 weeks. And this is the first time we had manned airplanes airborne when it showed up.
You hear that? For the last 2 weeks, I said they've been trying to track this thing, and they've seen 10 different sightings. 10 of them. Okay, go on.
I think whoever it was flying the thing probably got in trouble with their boss because they weren't supposed to be seen, and we saw them, but that's a different story.
Their boss is the Lord, Yahweh, and Yahweh.
So yeah, I don't know. It's there's a lot of stuff, and I know these guys are asked questions about it, but there's a lot of stuff out there that we're going to talk about. But they'd been coming down from above 80,000, come down, hang out at 20,000 for about 3 hours, and they go straight back up. Right? So we just happened to be out there when one was there, and I'm sitting in front of y'all here in McMinnville, Oregon, talking about it.
Did you? Who's the first person to call it a Tic Tac? And can you describe it a little bit more detail?
And listen to why they call it a Tic Tac.
I don't know. Whoops, neutralize. I don't know. It was probably all of us because people are like, "What did it look like?" And I go, "Look like a Tic Tac." And then people go, "What did it really look like?" I go get a box of Tic Tacs, take one out, and go make it 40 feet long. Any seen Ghostbusters? That? It's a Twinkie, and it weighs 500 pounds. It's a Tic Tac. Flies really fast, and it's about 40 feet long. And then they go, well, how do you know it's about 40 feet long? I go, I don't know. I've been flying.
He said it's a Tic Tac. He said it looked like a Tic Tac, right? About 40 feet long, right? He said it was like the shape of a Twinkie, 40 feet long, like a giant Twinkie. but more like a tic tac, he said, right? So I'm going to show you something. So this is what he said it looks like. This is why it's called a tic tac. These are tic tacs here. So he's saying the chariot looked like a tic tac, all right? So a tic tac has that kind of oval, long oval kind of shape, right? As you can see here on the screen, all right? A Twinkie, see? A Twinkie shape. A Twinkie shape just like a tic tac. All right? Say just like a tic tac. That's a Twinkie. He says, look at. He said this is why it's called Tic Tac UFO. The interview. All right, just so you understand. But this is what you saw. So this is a tic tac. Now we're going to go to scripture. Zechariah chapter 5 verse 1. Then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked and behold a flying roll. All right, this is the prophet Zechariah. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits and the breadth thereof 10 cubits, right? So Zechariah is describing the chariot of the Lord that he saw. He said it's like a flying roll, right? Now, we're going to start there first, right? The word fly, the word roll, right? In Hebrew, right? We're going to show you what he was talking about. A flying roll, right? Megillah, all right? Megillah, all right? That's the word, Megillah in Hebrew, Megillah. A roll is a book, a writing, a roll, all right? Now remember, a book, a writing, a roll, back in biblical times was what? A scroll. That's what they wrote upon. It was a scroll. That's what a roll is, all right? That's what a roll is. When he says a flying roll, a roll is a book, a writings, all right? They didn't have books like how we have books today. Their books were scrolls. So now let's look at what a scroll looks like. So this is a scroll. Whoops. This is a scroll. Can you see? So this is what Zechariah said, that the chariot that he saw said looked like a flying roll, which is a scroll. A roll is a book, right? A writing, a document that's been written on, which is a scroll. That's what he saw, right? Now, the UFO airman said it looked like a Twinkie, like a giant, let's get this on picture, like a giant Twinkie, the shape of it. He said it also looked like a tic tac, all right? As you can see, all right, the same shape, the tic tacs, same shape as a Twinkie, same literally shape as a roll, all right? So, Zechariah says here, he says, then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, behold, a flying roll. This is what he saw, right? And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length of it is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof is 10 cubits, right? Now let's see what a cubic is, right? I know what a cubit is, but I'm going to show you, right? The length of a cubit. So, cubit. A cubit is a measurement of roughly 18 inches, right? So that's a foot and a half, right? So, Zechariah said what? He said, and he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, and I see a flying roll, the length of it 20 cubits, right? So a cubit is a foot and a half, all right? So that's around 30 feet, right? So he's giving an estimate. He said it's around 20 cubits, right? And the breadth thereof is 10 cubits. So it's 30 feet by, 30 feet, because 18 inches, 12 inches is 1 foot, all right? So 20 cubits is, that would be 20 foot, and then 20 times a half a foot, that's 30 foot, right? 10 cubits would be 15 foot. So it's 30 foot long, the length of it is 30 foot long, and the width of it is 15 foot. This is what he saw, flying through the skies, right? This is the chariot that he saw. Now, listen to what he says again.
We just happened to be out there when one was there, and I'm sitting in front of y'all here in McMinnville, Oregon, talking about it.
Did you? Who's the first person to call it a tic tac? And can you describe it a little bit more detail about what you saw?
You bet. I don't know. Oops, neutralize.
Listen carefully.
I don't know. It was probably all of us because people are like, "What did it look like?" And I go, "Look like a Tic Tac." And then people go, "What did it really look like?" I go get a box of Tic Tacs, take one out, and go, make it 40 feet long. And
Make it 40 feet long. Zacharias, what Zacharias saw was, he said thereof it was roughly 30 foot by 15 foot, right? It was a flying roll, like a scroll. That's what he saw. He said it was like a giant Twinkie or a giant Tic Tac, all right? All seen the same type of shape chariot, exactly the same. Ezekiel told you that it moved, it returned. He said the living creature ran and returned as appearance of a flash of lightning. Ezekiel said it moved like a flash of lightning, just like what he explained earlier. So, and then they're showing you pictures of what they saw.
Ghostbusters, it's a Twinkie, and it weighs 500 pounds.
There you go.
It's a Tic Tac, flies really fast, and it's about 40 feet long. And then they go, "How do you know it's about 40 feet long?" I go, "I don't know. I've been flying for 16 years. I know about the size of a fighter. I know how close I got to it, and I know how big it looked." And I'm like, "It's probably about 40 feet long."
There you go.
So,
Probably about 40 feet long. So, Zacharias says here, Then said he unto me, This is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. These are the Lord's chariots. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side, according to it. And everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side, according to it. I will bring it forth, says Yahweh of hosts. These are the chariots that are coming on Judgment Day. These are the chariots that are coming to bring salvation to the children of Israel, to the elect of Israel. And these are the chariots that are going to destroy America, Israel, and that's going to destroy all of Esau's armies. And it shall enter into the house of the thief. Who's the house of the thief? Esau, the Edomites. And into the house of him that swears falsely by my name. Right? Who swears falsely by his name? The Edomites and the 2/3 of Israel. You've got the 2/3 of our people that swear falsely by the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Right? And these Edomites, because they give you white Jesus Christ. Right? And it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. Right? Then the angel talked with me. Then the angel that talked with me went forth and said unto me, Lift up thine eyes and see what it is that goes forth. All right? So this is exactly what's the exact same thing that this US pilot saw. Is what Zachariah saw. The exact same chariot. This is beautiful. Listen to the rest of his testimony.
But smooth, white. There's actually, you can't see it in the video that you guys, because it's been copied so many times. So we bring these things back. They're recorded on high 8, and the video is taken directly off the back of the feed to the displays that we see in the cockpit. And then we look at it on a big TV, right? Just normal TV. So it's just a high 8. We had 8mm stuff. So we have the 2 tapes. We can look at them both synced up. We can do all kinds of cool things with it. But so you put it in. It actually, when he gets close, because you see, everyone's seen the video. Do you guys know the right video? It's the boring one with no voices. It just sits in the middle of the screen. And a minute 30 later, it flies off the side. That's the video. Okay, so it starts black with a little white Tic Tac in the middle. Okay, that's infrared. So the differences in color are temperature. So the sky is black. The Tic Tac is white because it's hotter than the sky. So it's obviously got some heat to it. Which, when it switches to white with the little black Tic Tac in the middle, or gray, that's EO, that's TV. It's black and white TV camera. Okay. What the Wizzo, that's the weapon systems operator in the back seat, was doing is he was going through all the modes that he had. So there's a narrow, medium, and wide field of view. So it starts in wide, and those little bars on the side of it are actually the tracking.
The Lords Chariot.
You can go to a little pitch here because I did it for him. You can go to the Stars and look at the video, and they actually have it highlighted, and it shows. I told them what all that stuff was, so they did a pretty good job. So if you miss me in this, go watch that, and you'll be able to tell. The little bars it's a passive track. It locks onto that object based on pixel difference. So that's when you see it doing this. You know, little bars. Every time he changes, it has to relock, and he reacquires it. Because if he doesn't, the FLIR will actually it'll start to bore sight itself unless it's locked onto something. So he goes through the field of view, and the cool thing is that the closest, the narrow field of view in the IR mode is only the medium in the TV mode. So there's one more step forward in the TV mode, which is right before it flies off the screen is when he goes to that. So but there is that is the video. There's nothing being hidden. That's the whole thing. It's about 1:30 long, not 10. So.
I just want to get a little bit of clarification on the flight characteristics because, don't answer this right away, but, are you sure what you saw wasn't a missile or some other high-tech test? So the way I would like to phrase that is the flight characteristics. One of the first times we talked way back in the day, you were explaining to me that it looked like a ping pong ball inside a glass of water, the way that it would boom, 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 edge to edge. So the flight characteristics of this vehicle you saw was intelligently controlled, and, could it have been anything conventional based upon those flight characteristics, which you talked with Bob Azar last night a lot about? So please talk on that.
So we have this thing that kind of rules us. It's called physics. I know the coyote never studied law, or it was Bugs Bunny. So the laws of physics. I'm probably dating myself because I watched Looney Tunes as a kid, or maybe I still do. So it's called inertia. When an object's moving one way, you have to overcome that force to go the other way. This thing kind of defied that. Now, granted, you could do stuff limited, but for air, because it's just like, people have boats, they do the same thing. They're not like cars where you can slam on the brakes. And cars have inertia. That's when you go skidding across the ice, or, right before you impact that car because you were texting. That's inertia. ABS has failed. You're going into the bumper. This thing just defied all that. It was like left, right, forward, back. And then when it decided to come and visit, and mirror us, it just kind of abruptly went boop, like that fast, just boom, and it started moving. So there's nothing. We have nothing that can literally just stop twisting and it's going that fast. It doesn't do that. Not in the air.
And the way it took off is another property of the propulsion that is unique. Because you told me, Jeremy, I didn't see any flares, rotors, heat signatures, nothing. And when it took off, it was like. So
That's correct.
Can you explain that to everybody?
So let's just use something that's fast. So I've had airplanes, we do exercises where they're doing Mach 1.5. So you can see pretty far, you can see 50, 60, 70, and actually when you get up at altitude, you can see hundreds of miles. If an airplane comes by, because I've watched SR-71s when NASA was flying them coming in from above 60,000 feet, they take off out of, NASA had a facility towards Palmdale, and they would fly this big loop. They go up towards Oregon, up here. They go up towards Washington, they do a big loop like Montana, Washington, they go back down south because it takes them that much to turn. You can watch them for a while. They're doing like Mach 3. This thing disappeared in about that much space in front of my nose, just went poof and was gone. So even if it was doing Mach 3, I'd have been able to go, there it goes. Not catching it, but I can still see it. This thing just literally disappeared. Poof. And from two different angles, because you got to remember the other airplane is roughly 8,000 feet above me with a totally different angle on it and said the same thing. It got in front of your nose and it just disappeared.
So as an expert pilot, the propulsion this thing was
Lords Chariots.
utilizing without any signature that you have ever seen in other craft, this was a unique propulsion system.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was funny because...
The leading question. Just tell them about it.
So, most people were here for Bob earlier. So when Jeremy did I saw this before it got released. He sent it to me. And I'm like, wow, I called him. I said, well, that pretty much describes what I saw. So now you get in to go,
I don't need to go into more. If you want to watch this, it's called TIC TAC UFO, an exclusive interview with the pilot who chased it, part 1. I'll put the link to it so you can watch the whole video on my video that I'm uploading now, okay? So, we're going to pull out some scriptures, right? Just like he was saying, he said it didn't need to turn where it went, it just went zoom, zoom. If it went left, it just went boom, left, right, right. If it went up, up, down, if it went forward, back, it didn't turn. There was no propulsion system, anything. No, oh my gee. It's the Lord's Chariot that this man saw 15 years ago. So, go back to Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 15. It says, now as I beheld the living creature, all right? Now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth, and the living creatures with its 4 faces. The appearance of the wheels were like the work of the color of beryl, and the four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was if it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. The one that Ezekiel saw was a round chariot. All right. When they went upon their four sides, and they turned not where they went. Didn't need to turn left or right, up or down. Oh, this is beautiful. All right. So let's go to Zephaniah, go to chapter 6. Zechariah chapter 6 verse 1. And I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked upon and looked, and behold, there came 4 chariots out from between 2 mountains, and the mountains were mountains of brass. In the first chariot were red horses, and in the second black horses, and in the third chariot white horses, and in the fourth chariot grizzled bay horses. Then I answered and said unto the angel that talked with me, what are these, my Lord? He said, what kind of chariots are these? These are chariots of the Lord. These are not horses and men riding horses. These are chariots. Right? And the angel answered and said unto me, these are the what? The 4 spirits of the heavens. If these were normal friggin' horses, Zechariah ain't got to ask the angel what are these if he saw an actual physical chariot and men riding on horses. He's seeing objects, right? And the only thing he can describe them to are the most powerfulest thing back then in terms of in war was a horse to have with all that power, right? So he says, and the angel answered and said unto me, these are the 4 spirits of heaven, right? These are physical chariots which go forth from what? From standing before the Lord of all the earth. These are the chariots that go out into upper space, out into the 4th dimension, out into the heavens of heavens. There ain't no horses, no red rum or whatever we want to call them, horses riding out into the skies and out into space and that. These are physical chariots, the same chariots that Commander David Fravor is speaking of. All right, simple as that. Oh, this is beautiful, boy, I tell you. But this is why I said to you that we're so close to this end, because all of this stuff is coming out. All of this stuff is coming out. All of this information is coming out. Psalms 104, we're going to start at the top. It says, bless Yahweh, O my soul. O Yahweh, my power, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariots, who walks upon the wings of the wind, who makes his angels spirits and his ministers a flaming fire. All right, this is David speaking of the Lord's chariots again. All right, who makes his clouds his chariots, because they also come out from amongst the clouds. They get hidden amongst the cloud. Remember what Moses, when the Israelites had fled Egypt, right? The Lord sent his chariot to separate a pillar. So pillar by day, pillar by night. Hold on. And the Lord and Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night before the people. This is when he was taking the Israelites when they left Egypt under the Exodus. All right. Says the Most High led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up harnessed out of the land of Egypt. This is after they were delivered from the Egyptians. The Most High sent his chariot, right? His chariot. And we believe it was Yahweh's chariot. We're not sure, right? And that pillar by day, that pillar of fire to give light by night and to go by day and night, right? In the daytime, it was a pillar of cloud, was the Lord's chariots, what this world calls UFOs. That's what guided the Israelites when they came over the Red Sea to separate them from the Egyptians. I think it even tells you they should go. Nehemiah, Numbers, so see what it tells you here. So it's face to face, that by the cloud stands over them, that thou goes before them by day, time of night. This is Nehemiah. I was looking for, there's another scripture. Let me just see if it's in here. Yeah, this is what we're looking for here. And Moses said unto Yahweh, then the Egyptians shall hear it, for thou broughtest up this people in thy might from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land, for they have heard that thou, Yahweh, art among this people, that thou, Yahweh, art seen face to face, and that thy cloud standeth over them, and that thou goest before them by daytime in a pillar of a cloud, and in a pillar of fire by night. So, 2 Kings, we're on 2 Kings chapter 2. We'll quickly start at verse 8. And Elijah took his mantle and wrapped it together and smote the waters, and they were divided hither and thither, so that the two went over on dry ground. And it came to pass, when they were gone over, that Elijah said unto Elisha, ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon thee. This is before Elijah was taken away, all right? And he said, thou hast asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee. But if not, it shall not be so. So what did Elisha see? Let's see. And it came to pass, as they still went on and taught, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire, another UFO, the Lord's Chariot, and horses of fire. Do you understand when I say that? What we read here, it wasn't talking about actual horses. In Zechariah, oops, I'll stop doing that. In Zechariah chapter 6, it weren't talking about horses when it says in the first chariot were red horses and in the second chariot black horses. It weren't talking about actual horses. It was using it as a metaphor to describe the power of what he saw. All right, just like in here, where it says here, it says, and it came to pass, as they still went on and taught, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire, which was a UFO, and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. So the chariot parted them, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. All right? And listen to what Elisha's reply is. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel. Elisha didn't say, oh, these are horses and this. He knows what he saw. This was a chariot. They were just likening them to the most fearsome war, use the right word, the most fearsome war machine back then was a chariot and horses. They was likening what they were seeing in the skies to what they had, the actual chariots and horses. It was like, because that was the power. If an army had chariots and horses, that was a powerful army back in biblical times. So they were likening it to their weapon of war, which was a chariot and a horse. So Elisha says, my father, the chariots of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. So he was likening the pilots, the angels that was driving these chariots, as if they were the horsemen. They were the men that were riding. The horsemen are the men that ride the physical chariots in biblical times. They were just, this is a metaphor. They were just likening it to what they had. and the horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up in a whirlwind to heaven, and Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more, and he took hold of his own clothes, and rent them in 2 pieces. So Elisha witnessed Elijah being taken up in the Lord's chariots, those same chariots that Commander David Fravor is speaking of that he saw in 2004. Nahum chapter 2 verse 3. The shield of this mighty man is made red, the valiant men are in scarlet. The chariots shall be with flaming torches in the day of his preparation, and the fir tree shall be terribly shaken. The day of his preparation is going to be the day of judgment, right? The chariots shall rage in the streets. You hear that? They shall jostle one against another in the broad ways. Just like how you see those fighter jets, and they call it a dogfight, right? When they're going against each other in the skies. The same thing they're going to be doing with the chariots. That's why it says that the chariots shall rage in the streets. They shall jostle one against another in broad ways. They shall seem like torches. They shall run like the lightnings. And we read that in Ezekiel chapter 1, when Ezekiel said, and the living creature ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 14. So Nahum is telling you as well, the chariots shall rage in the streets. Just like how you see the F-jets do a dogfight against one another in the skies. Alright? That's how they're raging in the streets. That's when they go up against each other. But they're going to be going up against Esau's fighter pilots, fighter jets. They shall jostle one against another in broad ways. They shall seem like torches. Alright? They shall run like the lightnings. So this, for any idiot out there who believes that those UFOs, that these pilots, these fighter pilots that people are seeing are filled with little green men or aliens, are living in Never Land. Those are the Lord's chariots. Those are the angels of the Lord in those chariots. In those UFOs. Those are the angels of the Lord. David, tell you what's coming. Psalm 68, verse 17. The chariots of the Most High are 20,000. What? Even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them. Yahushua is among them, as in Sinai. This is why we say that we believe that was the Lord's chariot, Yahushua's chariot, that separated them. So when we was talking about here, in Exodus 13, and it says, and Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud, to lead them the way by night in a pillar of fire, to give them light to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night before the people. And this is when the children of Israel went up harnessed out of the land of Egypt, right? Just like it says here. But the Most High led the people, the powers led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea. And the children of Israel went up harnessed out of the land of Egypt. So, this is why we say here, it says the chariots of the powers are 20,000. Even thousands of angels. Those are what's driving those chariots. Are the Lord's angels, are the Most High's angels, Yahushua's angels. The Lord is among them, right? As in Sinai, in the holy place. This is why we say that it was Yahushua that was in that great chariot that led them, that delivered the children of Israel out of Egypt. That's why it's called the Passover. That's why he has the name the Lamb. What did they sacrifice on the night before the great deliverance? They sacrificed the lamb. They had to take the blood from the lamb and put it on the pillar of the post of the doors, right? In Egypt. So that the angel of death that came over them, that killed every firstborn, did not kill an Israelite. And we believe that same angel, that angel was Yahushua. And it was Yahushua that delivered them. Just like how Yahushua is coming to deliver us again on Judgment Day. Who's coming to deliver the Israelites and give you salvation. Who is it that's coming to bring salvation to the children of Israel? Yahushua, the same man that delivered the Israelites out of Egypt. That's why he's called the Lamb. The lamb is what they sacrificed on the night of the Passover. Remember, that's what they had to do. Yep. Passover. See, then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said, so in Exodus 12 and 21, unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. Right? That's what they had to do. And when you read the rest of it, it tells you what they had to do. And ye shall have hyssop and dip it in its blood in the basin and strike the lintels and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin, and none of you shall go out of the door of the house until the morning. So that's how the Lord knew to not kill anyone in those houses where the lintel posts were stricken with the blood of the lamb on the posts, because all of those houses were the houses that were going to be delivered from their firstborn being killed. For what? For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood upon the lintel and on the two sides posts, the Lord Yahweh will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you, to kill your firstborn. That's why the Yahushua is known as the Lamb, to do with the deliverance of the children of Israel out of Egypt. It's all there. It's all there in scriptures, whether you know your scriptures or not, but it's all there. And this is why we say that David knew that it was the Lord that was among them. That it was his chariot that was separating the Egyptians from the Israelite after they had fled. Because remember, the Egyptians came after them. It was the Lord that kept them apart. It was his chariot that separated them. The chariot was so big, right? It was so big. Remember, look, in 2nd Ezra's, oh man, I always say this is not going to be that long, boy, but it's so hard to not do this when the Spirit is working with you. 2nd Ezra chapter 13, I believe. And it came to pass, after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. Those are the thousands of angels in their chariots. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whatsoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they that burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. And after this, and I beheld, and lo, they gathered together a multitude of men out of the numbers of the four winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. The man that came out of the sea is talking about the chariots that's coming from the heavens. It's not actually coming out of the sea, it's coming from the skies, but it'll be above the seas and the land, right? That's what Ezra saw. Now listen to what he says. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereat the hill was graven, and I could not. So he couldn't even see where the chariot started and when the chariot finished. He said it was like a great mountain. You know, the Lord ain't coming flying on no actual physical mountain like the Himalayas or Mount Everest or the other one in Nepal. I forget what they call it, that they keep going up. Maybe that is Everest, right? It's not, or the Kilimanjaro mountains. He's not flying on no actual physical mountain. This chariot was so big, it was like a great mountain. Ezra said he couldn't see where it started or where it finished. Are you telling me that when this man is giving his testimony about him seeing these chariots, him and his 4 other co-pilots that were flying their fighter jets? Each fighter jet had 2 pilots in them. And then the men that went up after him on a training exercise came back and saw the same chariots. And you really want to think these are little green men? I tell you, boy, you people got a rude awakening to what's coming. Same thing with Maccabees. In the book of Maccabees, chapter 5. Whoops. Chapter 5. Antiochus saw them as well. About this same time, Antiochus prepared his second voyage into Egypt. And then it happened that through all the city, for the space of almost 40 days, they were seeing horsemen running in the air in cloths of gold and armed with lances. Those were the angels in their chariots, like a band of soldiers. And troops of horsemen in array, encountering and running one against another. So doing training exercises, just like what he was doing. They were up there doing training exercises. For all he knows, those chariots that they saw, because they said they saw 10 over 4 weeks, could have been doing some sort of exercises amongst themselves. So Antiochus says here, and the troops and horsemen in array, encountering and running one against another, with shaking of shields and the multitude of pikes, and drawing of swords, and casting of darts, and the glittering of golden ornaments, and the harness of all sorts. Wherefore every man prayed that the apparition might turn to good. That's what they saw. They saw chariots in the air doing all sorts of maneuvers. All sorts of maneuvers. The same things that Zechariah 6 spoke about. Zechariah 6:7? No. It's Nahum. Nahum, sorry, not Zechariah 6, what Nahum 2 said. He said, where is it? Nahum 2:1? Yeah. He says the chariots are in Nahum chapter 2 verse 4. He said the chariots shall rage in the streets. They shall jostle one against another in broad ways. They shall seem like torches. They shall run like the lightnings. Maccabee saw the same thing. He said, and the troops and the horsemen in array, encountering and running one against another, with shaking of shields and the multitude of spikes, and the drawing of swords, and the casting of darts, and the glittering of golden ornaments, and the harness of all sorts. He saw them doing all sorts of maneuvers in the air. All sorts of maneuvers. And there was where was the other one? It was, oh shit, there was another one. If I can find it. There's another one in Antiochus. Hold on, there's one more I want to give you before we go. It's 11. Is it 11? 6 verse 10. 6. Where is it? Let's see. Hold on, people. Stay with me. Is that one? Let's find Maccabees 2, 1 to 5. One more I want to give you. Where is it? It was in the sky for 40 days. Put that one there. Put the one that went in the angel. Stay with me, people. Find it. Yeah, I'm just looking for my scriptures. 1 minute. So that's it. 10, 24, 32, 11 verse 6 to 10. I don't know where it is. 1 second. Is it this one? No. It's not this one here. It's the one where Antiochus saw the chariots in the skies for 40 days. They were doing all sorts of maneuvers. Where are you, man? I know where you are. I've got to find you. Stay with me, people. Put that one there. Prayer, art, tabernacle, Holy City, Simon. No, that's not it there. Golden arm in the air, above Jerusalem. Is this the one here, to the city? Yeah, it is here. How did I just read it? Maybe I'm getting mad here, you know. Chapter 5, second, yeah, I did read it. I am getting mad here. To 40 days, it was this I just read here. Second Maccabees, chapter 5, verse 2. Yeah, sorry. I'm getting mad. But because of that, I did find, for all of that anyway, I found one more to give you, alright? Second Maccabees, chapter 10. I will finish on here. Alright? But that's what I was looking for. I'd already read it to you. That's me, boy. It happens to you sometimes. 24, overthinking it. We're going to finish here. So we're 2 Maccabees chapter 10 verse 24. Now Timotheus, right, which was a Greek, he was a Greek king, whom the Jews had overcome before, when he had gathered a great multitude of foreign forces and horses out of Asia, not a few, came as though he would take Jewry, which is the Israelites, by force of arms. But when he drew near, they that were with the Maccabeans turned themselves to pray unto the Most High, and sprinkled earth upon their heads and girded their loins in sackcloth. So now they're in mourning, they're praying to the Most High, because Timotheus has come back down on them with a greater army, right? He's a king, he's a Greek king, Timotheus, right? And he fell down at the foot of the altar and besought him to be merciful to them, and to be an enemy to their enemies, and an adversary to their adversaries, as the Lord declares, right? It's clear as day. So after the prayer, they took their weapons and went on further from the city. And when they drew near to their enemies, they kept by themselves. Now the sun being newly risen, they joined both together, the one part having together with their virtue their refuge also unto the Lord for a pledge of their success and victory, the other side making their rage leader of their battle. All right, so Timotheus is making their rage the leader of their battle, while we were making the Lord, the prayers, the leader of our battle. All right, the Israelites. So, but when the battle waxed strong, there appeared unto the enemies from heaven, from the skies, 5 commonly men upon horses, and we're not talking actual horses, these are chariots with girdles of gold, and 2 of them led the Jews. So 2 of these chariots led the Jews. Now listen carefully. And took Maccabeus, the Maccabeans, betwixt them, right, and covered him on every side, with weapons, right? So the 2 chariots covered all of the Israelites that were going to fight against King Timotheus and his army on every side. So these are 2 big chariots with their weapons, right, and kept him safe. But shot arrows. So they shot arrows and what? And lightnings, which are laser beams, against the enemies, so that being confounded with blindness, arrows ain't gonna blind you. Normal bow and arrows, or arrows from any type of wooden machine or bow and machine or string machine, ain't gonna blind you unless it goes right into your eye, right? It's these lasers which blinded them. So them being confounded with blindness and full of trouble, they were killed. The 2 chariots killed all of King Timotheus, the Greeks' army, right? And there were slain of footmen 20,000 and 600 horsemen. So 20,000, right, and 500 footmen were slain by the 2 chariots, and 600 horsemen. So you know this ain't no bow and arrow or whatever. They said the 2 chariots, the 2 men that were in the chariots did this. And as for Timotheus himself, he fled into a very stronghold called Gara, where Chariot was governor. So that's another story of the chariots coming to the rescue of the Israelites. And this was the Maccabeans. All right? Jonathan, Jason, there was the 5 brothers, and few of them died as they were going along. Their father was Matthias. Matthias was the father of these brothers, all right? So it's another clear-cut story showing you the chariots of the Lord coming to the rescue of the Israelites because they prayed to the Most High to devour, to destroy and kill, and they killed 20,000 footmen and 5,600 horsemen. And that's it, and that was King Timothy. So I don't need to say no more. I don't say no. I think this man here made it quite clear what it is he saw. Nothing of this world. This ain't no green new aliens. These are the Lord's angels in their chariots. It's as clear as day in the Bible. And this man here gave us a testimony to what he saw. And I showed you what Zechariah said about the flying roll, how big it was. It's literally nearly the exact same size that he said it was about 40 feet. Zechariah saw it was 30 feet and 15 feet long. He said it was the size, it was the shape of a Tic Tac or a Twinkie. Zechariah said it was like a flying roll, a scroll. Come on, man. For anyone that thinks anything else, boy, they live in Disneyland. So anyway, this is just for the Israelites, the elect. Just to let them know that those are the same chariots that are going to come and deliver us on Judgment Day. Those are the same chariots that are going to destroy Esau's kingdom. Those are the same chariots that are going to destroy the United States of America. Those are the same chariots that are going to destroy Israel. Those are the same chariots that are going to put to bed all of the heathen armies and nations and rulerships. So on that note, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada, Amen. I pray this was an edifying video for the Akayams out there. Just keep up the faith and keep up the works. All praises.